board, and
What are
and
we
I'm
talking about
super
anyway?
excited. I'm sorry.
What is the subject that we're talking about
The
besides the
strange
sun?
time that we're living in with
All right.
COVID-19, et cetera, et cetera.
All
Laura,
right.
you're a little closer to me. Do me a favor and introduce yourself. Tell people where you are and what you do or did.
Well, I'm Laura Dawson. In normal times, I'm a fashion designer. I live in London. I come from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I spent a little time in New York City.
That was very succinct. David, David, will you do the same?
Sure, it will be succinct, but I'm David.
We'll sit back.
Grew up in Middletown, Ohio, moved to Cincinnati for a bit, then I moved to Chicago, then I got transferred to Santa Rosa, California, then I got transferred to Los Angeles, and then I got married, and I moved to Seattle, then we bought a house in Portland, and then we moved back to Seattle, and now we live in Brussels. I do a lot of things, but all I care about is rock and roll. So there you go.
Perfect. Excellent. So just really quickly, was Brussels a work thing for you or your wife? Is that why you're there? Or is it more of a family thing?
No, her entire family is here.
Okay.
Except for she does have a sister that lives in the Netherlands. They're Dutch actually, but they're all living in Belgium. And we got tired of all the winning, so we thought we'd leave America and tilt the scales. And I have to say, mission accomplished.
So
I'm dying to know, what do you do for fun in Brussels? Because I've been there and it's pretty, and I could not find fun things to do for the life of me.
Well, you've got a connection now.
Okay, so here's the thing. What I've noticed as a person that just likes to go to rock shows and things like that, there are events happening. You have to look for them, but they are few and far between. Brussels is more of a family city. I think, however, I'm on a train and in 2 hours I'm in London, or in an hour and a half I'm in Paris. So I leave Brussels often. Well, I used to.
Right.
When you were allowed.
I was supposed to be in London next week, but I'm not. I had to get vouchers for my train ticket, so.
Yeah.
No refunds there either, huh?
No, I get refunds.
Okay.
I just have to reschedule my trip. But I've had 4 shows that I was gonna see, and here in Brussels, and then a couple of Antwerp that have been canceled or postponed.
Yeah.
Kim Gordon is supposed to play here at the end of May. I think that's going to get canceled. So that means the next show that I will see, hopefully, is Guided by Voices in Ohio. So
and if that show goes off, I'm gonna declare right here and now, and it'll be news to my wife that I will be there.
well, I thought you were going to be there anyway.
No, I actually was kind of screwed out of Springfest and Heatfest this year because of work trips. I had to go to real estate events that happened to coincide with both of those events, and of course all my work trips have been canceled all the way through September. So I'm free at the moment. So if it happens,
work trips? During these days are work trips.
What are work trips?
Yeah, because I've known you for ever, more than 20 years. But
yeah,
what are you doing now?
Oh, I sell real estate software.
Oh, cool.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, I asked you that a few months ago, but I didn't get that information. Maybe you think it isn't cool. I don't know.
Oh,
it's real estate software, Scott. Do a pitch.
We provide a software system for agents that want to build the listing side of their business by giving them a system to call data provided by us on expired, canceled, withdrawn, for sale by owner, and for rent by owner properties.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
My brother made a software app. It's for touring musicians. They're doing okay, I'll say modestly.
No, wait, back up. You said you have a touring musicians software app you work?
Eventric. My brother was one of the 2 founders of Eventric. He's now the living founder of Eventric. And yeah, they're doing okay.
Well, that's good. That's good. I consider myself incredibly fortunate to be working at all in any capacity. Yeah. But okay, so you said it's an app for touring musicians.
Well, yeah, I was going out with a tour manager, and my brother went, "What? That's a job? You can get paid to manage bands' tours?" And I was like,
"Oh yeah,
yeah." And he was like, computers could do that. I was like, that sounds weird, but okay. And yeah, now there's an app for that.
You may have just coined a phrase. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that before.
I have a question though. I never had a tour manager, so why would one need one?
Let's get David Scheid on the line.
I'm told that some musicians did not wish to review with their band, for example, at what time they should be at the airport, that they had to get out of bed on time, arrange people's visas, get heavy equipment onto planes. I think some musicians that I
debate their riders
have phobias of being stuck in Israel or other places. You know, that's one particular person's phobia.
Yeah.
Wow, that's why I never had a band manager, because we didn't leave the United States, so it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And you probably also had, it sounds like you might have had a good sense of personal accountability.
I'm sober. Been sober for a long time.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, obviously, you have to concede that you're probably the minority as far as touring musicians go.
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
I've realized that.
So, David, what do you do there?
That's boring. It's very boring.
Okay. All right. well, then answer me this. So
I sit in front of a computer all day. It's cool.
I do too.
I call people, and I can listen to podcasts and music and news while I'm doing it. And I'm not friends with anybody at work on Facebook, so I can say these things. It's a very boring job, and I'm happy to have it. And I can do it from home. I don't know what it's going to be like to leave the house again. I love working from home. This is incredible.
I mean, you're seriously very comfortable.
Yes.
So were you working from home before, or did you have an office you had to go to, or were you always remote?
I go to a big corporate office for work. I know it's scary. Little David Enright's working in fucking corporate town, but
is it suit and tie?
Not that bad.
Okay.
It's cash. Still, like I have a key, all that stuff. But I love working from home. I guess you guys don't. I mean, I don't like not having anywhere to go once I'm done with work. But you
were saying that thing before about how Brussels you had to like try and find things to do, and the first thought I had was, well, it was kind of like that in Cincinnati too, wasn't it?
The thing in Cincinnati though is that when you know a bunch of people, you're already going to have a social outlet wherever you go, and I think that's both good and bad. That was my experience of living there. It's like sometimes I just want to be anonymous, which is why not living in Cincinnati was incredible. But the other thing is that I visit Cincinnati and I can get into a stop chat wherever I go.
Right.
The nice thing about Cincinnati is that people are so nice and they're really cool and really interesting. So it's it's not like people are going, oh, I'm too snobby to tell you where this party is. Like,
right.
It's nice. It's a really great place to be.
So I show up and it's good. I was pretty hard on it when I lived there, but I've been away long enough to say, okay, all right, it's got some cool stuff, and I don't ever want to go back, but it's cool.
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it is. Well, Laura, you just said that that people weren't too snobby to tell you where a party is. Has that been your experience in London? We're not telling the American where the party is?
No, London's not so bad. New York can really be like that, though.
Yeah, but I mean, New York has got, I don't want to disparage New York in any way, shape, or form based on everything that's going on right now, but.
Well, I mean, in my time there was, people who did creative things, and then there were people who made money, and the people who did creative things were very dismissive of bankers, and sometimes you'd see somebody drive in from New Jersey and just go, oh God. But so like, yeah, okay, there's reasons for that, but sometimes I think the snobbery went a bit too much, where like you could be a 20-year-old student and you manage to get yourself an apartment in Williamsburg, and somebody would go, oh, you're so bridge and tunnel. You're like, like living in downtown Manhattan already. Jesus Christ, I got here 5 minutes ago.
Well, there's that. So what, so I've been locked in my house for, this is it was 4 weeks ago yesterday. It was Friday the 13th when we decided our kids weren't going to go back to school, even though the schools hadn't technically closed yet. But
A
this
lot of
shelter,
people did that.
well, I mean, it was getting weird. You know, we
I
were
mean,
hearing
not just
reports.
where you are. Like a lot of people were like, "You want to penalize me? Go ahead, but I want my kids to be safe."
Yeah, well, the kids were going to school, and it was just, the ideas of how contagious this was and how many cases. I mean, obviously at the time the caseload wasn't, terrifying, but it had potential. But there were people at my kids' schools, like one of the teachers was tested positive at my daughter's elementary school. And it wasn't, apparently she tested positive like on that Monday or something, and then it wasn't told to anybody until Thursday. and so I was just like, all right, well, she's not going to school tomorrow. And then they closed the schools the following Monday or whatever. But my question is how long have you guys been in this shelter in place thing? It's been a little longer or actually London was about the same timeline as the US, wasn't it?
London was about the same timeline as the US. And the similarities in between the UK and the US are that both governments moved quite slowly. So like, the information was available. Everything that was happening in China and in Italy and in France was quite clear.
Clear, right.
Yeah, and on international news, and just the government moved quite slowly. So the effect in the UK was that, there would be certain businesses closing. There would be people that would, refuse to move or to do things, and then, you would kind of hear, oh, they're considering closing the schools, and then, sort of a week later, the schools would close. But because some of this information was getting out, you'd kind of go, okay, if they're closing the schools, then that means this, okay, dominoes, like,
sure, right.
Get really, really bad if they close the schools, because if the schools are closed, the parents can't go to work.
Right.
The parents can't go to work. All these other economic things start to domino.
Yep.
That's serious.
Yeah, that's actually a bigger concern of me personally than the virus itself. And I just think the economic impact of all this worldwide is going to be huge. David, how long has Brussels been locked down?
It's been in a similar timeline as the US and the UK,
really?
But they, like, before the lockdown started, like my last day in the office was Friday the 13th. Well, no, I went in that Monday too, Monday after. But
we had to gather your things.
I had to get my computer and my screens and all that crap. But so they started it first, like, I think for 2 weeks before the Friday the 13th, or right at the beginning of March. It was they said only essential stores will be open, and hairdressers are going to be open until 5. It's like,
as
I
opposed
still
to what,
don't understand.
10?
Yeah, I still understand why hair salons were still open and considered essential, but there were all these different businesses that had the option of staying open or keeping like hours. Like, bars were the first thing to close, and then restaurants were still open for a time, but it just it all went really quickly. Once they decided to like make everybody stay at home, it's just, okay, we're at home now. So pretty much, yeah, since it's been Friday the 13th was the last full day that I had at the office. And before that, it was an optional thing. If like our colleagues had children, they could make an option to work from home.
Right.
Because we're going to try to keep just certain floors of the office building open.
Right. A phase shutdown.
It very quickly just turned into like, why are we just shutting the whole damn thing down? There's no reason for us to be in here.
To be partial, yeah.
Right.
Around here, it was so obvious what was going to happen before it happened that I was literally like, all right, well, I want to see this best friend go to Liberty's, send that person chocolate, go to that restaurant, and get my hair cut. Like, all on different days.
Right.
Sometimes even different weekends. Because it was like, all right, well, get your haircut, because it's going to be a long time until you can get a haircut. But like, I shouldn't have that much time. I'm just a person. It shouldn't be that obvious.
I think it's an interesting set of doomsday preps. Go to Liberty's, get my hair cut, make sure I get some food at that one restaurant.
Like the one agent that's actually doing her damn job, she's getting some really nice chocolate.
Right, without a doubt. Well, you guys had your PM in intensive care, right?
Yeah.
What'd you say for? Because he didn't die?
Because you said your PM, probably.
Oh, that was really,
I don't
really
have a
rude.
problem with Boris. Dominic Cummings, however, is going to cause a lot of suffering amongst a lot of people, and I really wish he was nowhere near the government. I don't really care how that happens. I just want him to go away and stop.
I know. That's something you hear in the United States a lot. You know, I typically wouldn't wish ill will on anyone, but
I would.
right?
I would wish ill will. I want it to happen. I don't care.
Mm. Oh, I mean, what's the sense? I mean, you guys, I mean, I'm assuming you have conversations with people that aren't citizens of the United States. What's the sense in the rest of the world of how screwed we are?
There seems to be a lack of perception that, like, the raw number of people who have fallen ill is a straightforward measure of the severity in a given country, which isn't the case. Like in the UK, I think we have something like 20% of the population infected, and the US has like 6%, but the numbers are the same because the US is enormous. But sometimes
Right.
the way that things are reported, that isn't clear. Or for example, within the US, New York has a third of the cases.
Right.
And if you're in, I don't know, some rural place, you might be just fine. So you have a big disparity in the effects, but that's not always clear either, because if you're far away, it's hard to think about the little details of places that maybe you haven't been to.
Sure. Yeah, I know, without a doubt. Well, let me touch on that really quick, because I personally don't feel like any of these numbers can even. I don't see how anyone could possibly accept them.
There's no test.
There's
So
there's no testing. Yeah, there's no testing, and so the numbers we're getting, I mean, at the very least, are woefully low. You know, I mean, and then apparently there's over the last few days, I've seen a few stories about asymptomatic people just wandering around with this thing. You know, I don't know. But I mean, are you guys? The United States is starting to have, you know, some kind of planned and prodded right-wing civil unrest about reopening the economy. Are
I've
you
seen
guys?
the news.
Yeah, I mean, if you are you guys getting anything like that there? Are people in England complaining? Are people in Belgium complaining? Are people starting to say we need to get out?
No.
No.
No. And there is a lot of
Just
like
no.
pro-farm right-wing stuff, but it manifests in the UK as more. It seems to have a more like anti-Semitic flavor, whereas in the US they've got that.
That's not funny, but it's a funny way to put it.
No, I mean, it's like white supremacist and anti-Semitic like together, but that is a much smaller minority here with a less organized violent action mechanism, thank goodness, and long may it continue.
Right.
So they haven't been able to go like, oh, we have a Tea Party network that we can just activate. You know, you still have, I don't know, like occasionally you'll have some religious person of, you know, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindi, or whatever, go, oh, our chosen deity will protect us. Let's everybody go and have a celebration. And you're like, oh God, please, can you not infect anyone? We all don't infect each other. But yeah, I mean, what can you do?
I mean, in some cases, it's just sit back and watch, sadly. But
unfortunately,
you know,
I think that for the United States, though, I mean, I think that there's people that are shitty everywhere, regardless. And the problem with the United States is that you don't have a government set up to help the people when there's no work and there's no health care. And so we're in Europe. I don't know how bad it is in the UK. I mean, you guys still have the NHL or NHS, whatever. NHL is hockey.
Yeah.
Stripped to its bones.
I was really excited to know that hockey was still being played in England. So
hockey is still being played. It's very helpful there, and people play hockey, and then they get over the virus. But the point is that we have healthcare coverage here. If the shit hits the fan, which it has, we have an insurance, unemployment insurance, healthcare. There's so many different things down the line which is about big government, and big government is the thing here. So.
Yeah. And not
it's
even
different in America.
I mean, you know, my dad goes, oh, your taxes are so high. I'm like, I pay about 5 to 8% more in taxes, and I don't get mugged, and I have a doctor, and the roads work.
I mean,
okay.
I mean, I guess a lot of that depends on your expectations of your life, but No, I mean, this isn't. This is. I mean,
I mean, do
the
you want
United
to pay 25% and get nothing, or 30% and
get
like,
everything.
let's see, on Tuesday, I called my doctor. She called me back. I said, I need a birth control refill. She said, no problem. I said, I need the one that's, not the regular one. She said, yeah, no problem. Go pick it up from the pharmacy. It's free.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, I hear these stories all the time. It's not an impossible proposition. The problem in the United States is that it's not a government for the people. It's a government for profit. And unfortunately, it's a mindset that filters down to everybody. I mean, we got a huge swath of our population that firmly and with absolute conviction, that's the same thing, and with redundancy, believe that the bottom line is the most important. Like the money's it. The money's the only thing that matters. And
But most people not remember, oh, hold on. A couple of years ago, there was a really expensive tax cut. Now they've got to figure out how to pay for it. Oh, let's see. Let's cut funding.
nobody's thinking about that. That's the United States.
Oh,
Nobody's thinking about
it's
that.
definitely the WHO's fault. It's not because we have to pay for a tax cut for billionaires. It's definitely that the WHO did something wrong. Like, I just, people's naivete is staggering.
It's deliberate.
It's insane.
It's not even naivety. I think it's like complete voluntary ignorance.
Yeah,
Period.
without a doubt. Because if they thought about things any further than their own fucking 2 feet in front of them and their bag of Doritos, then they wouldn't be able to live with themselves. Sorry, that was a little harsh, I guess.
No, I mean, I do wonder. I wonder how much the naivete is sincere. I mean, I wonder, like when people are presenting a front of like, oh no, I definitely believe this. You're like, you are smart. I know that you are. So
that's never a safe assumption, Laura.
Feeling bad and just you don't want to say out loud that you feel bad? What's going on here?
I don't know. Well, what do you think about that business with the WHO, the WHO? I mean, I mean, from in the United States, despite the fact that they're trying to tell us to the contrary, they didn't do anything wrong, right? Didn't they handle this thing the way they've always handled everything? And it's completely arbitrary and nonsensical that we would decide to cut funding to them.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
right. Next question.
I think
Sorry.
the point is that the WHO didn't like march into the offices of the Chinese Communist Party and demand more information, but they don't have that power.
Well, that's another thing too. That's another great point. A lot of people have pointed to the circumstances in China, and I don't know anybody that doesn't understand that you can't accept at face value the information we got. But at the same time, everyone's like, well, look how they handled it. And I'm just like, how do you know how they handled it?
Yeah.
Okay, but there's other pandemics that have happened that have come out of China that have started in wet markets, and it's been fact and it's been proven. So you have that.
Sure. Well, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm not talking about like the origin of the thing itself or whether or not it did start there. I'm talking about the models that are people trying to base on the statistics that we're getting out of it. Wuhan's back to normal. I don't know what the news coverage is like, obviously in Belgium or England, but the United States, despite the fact that we've had record-breaking new cases and deaths over the last week, all the news reports is about we're ready to reopen. We've flattened the curve. We're past the peak, and sometimes people say, actually, if you look at the Wuhan model, we're exactly where we're supposed to be to get back to normal.
That's very.
Are you talking? I'm sorry. You go, Laura.
I said that's very Orwellian.
Okay, but my question is that just in Ohio coverage, or is that all around? Because I'm still following news, but I don't follow it on a local level in America, and I haven't seen.
David, do you get do you get NPR, CNN, MSNBC,
Yep,
all the big players?
I watch PBS and I watch and I listen to NPR all day.
Right.
Still.
So yeah, and so that's one of the things that's disturbed me about this pivot, and maybe it's a difference in news stories dissemination in Europe versus here. But the pivot has included news sources that I respect and generally believe, and it just seems like there's this kind of Orwellian consensus on the media's side to make the conversation about when we start the economy rather than whether or not we're still on the upswing.
The economy has to be
Cool.
started in America. I hate to say that, though. I mean,
Talking
we
about
don't have
economics
anything
is
else.
bad, but going, oh, let's have 1,000 people get together to have a protest. Probably
Sure.
not the right idea.
Yeah,
right?
not the best idea in the world. And I don't
No,
disagree that the economic circumstances means that there's aspects of our life that do have to continue. And there's, huge percentages of our population, like myself, like a lot of people I've spoken to on these things, who are able to continue while still maintaining safe practices as far as like not contaging anybody. Contaging. But but at the same time, I just kind of feel like there's kind of this headlong rush to adopt this mindset that this isn't that big a deal. And it concerns me that, I don't have a lot of faith in people in general, and I just, even the most carefully orchestrated plan to ease people back into circumstances where we can do some of the things that moves the economy, I just don't see it being adhered to well enough to not be a complete clusterfuck.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you can't roll out something like that and people don't just take the necessary steps of patience to get things back going again.
Sure.
It seems that it's either you stay home or it's anarchy. And I don't know. We've never been here before. So
Right. Which is one of the reasons I'm doing this. And I can't tell you guys enough how much I appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
One of the nice things about British culture is that they are so rules based usually, and like quite polite. So, sometimes if you, I don't know, like if you're not wearing your mask in the park, somebody will go, oh, are you sure you should be out? Or like, it's kind of usually nice little like, oh, I've decided to put leaflets through the mailboxes on my street to check if anybody is older and vulnerable, and I'll do their grocery shopping for them.
Sure.
I didn't do that, but a lot of people are doing that.
You can still do it. It's not all over yet. You can still get out there if you want to. But no, that's the thing. I mean, that's an age-old thing. I've firmly believed a little compassion and good manners goes a long way. And it's one of the things that I think is kind of sorely lacking in the grand old USA.
I mean, there's one park that's by me out of the 6 that are near my house. I'm very lucky. And I've got a dog that I've got to walk. So sometimes, I'll go through there at night, and there's this group of like young guys that are smoking pot in the park every night.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of thought nothing of it. And then there's another dog walker that I see, she's a nice basset hound. My dogs play with their dogs, whatever. And she was like, I tried to call them in and report it. And I was like, oh, I never thought of that. But yeah.
Of course you didn't think
the
of it. You
cops
didn't care.
are pretty good here about getting everybody in.
What?
Say that again?
I was like, the cops are really good at getting everybody in here. I read in the paper every day how these 2 19-year-old kids were sitting on the steps of the milk punt passing a joint, and they've been fined like 14 times now. So
they're dedicated. That kind of dedication is hard to come by.
They're dumb. But
tomato, David, tomato. No, I mean,
I'm on your parents' roof if you want to smoke pot.
I don't mind telling you both that I become increasingly jealous of people that have, in fact, left the good old USA. I'm really concerned about like just kind of the degeneration of IQs that I've watched firsthand over the last few years, and people I like and respect.
To be completely honest with you, Scott, it's very depressing for me to watch what's going on in the United States from not the United States. I feel it even more because there's basically my whole family is there and everybody that I love is there. And I'm just like, well, what happens if this black hole comes along and swallows it up? Because I feel like that's like a fear that I have every day. And it's very hard for me to see happen. It's very hard. And I hate it.
Every
when you're moving,
you have with your parents, you wonder if it's the last time you're going to see them moving. It's terrible.
I mean, you guys really feel like it's that dire? I do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And not just the virus, but I think also the
No, I don't
way
think
that
it's. I think
Americans
it's.
treat each other, and
Yeah,
the whole entire psyche of the country
yeah.
is is a minefield in my opinion.
It's a powder keg, is what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And I kind of alluded to that before. That while I'm concerned about the number of people dying, I'm concerned about the constant reemergence of this particular illness. I'm more concerned about the increased economic fragility this country is going to be under.
Yes.
So much of the government's uh, assistance amounted to profiteering and loans, and it just they really it really didn't seem to be geared toward putting us on the right foot, and just the general lack of civility that I also feel like has increased considerably over the last decade or so. I agree with you. I think anything. I mean, I was watching what was going on in Venezuela last winter, and I remember telling people, I don't think you understand that the United States is a lot closer to this sort of thing than this Brexit debate. This chaos in the streets where an elected official has to escape to another country, and it's just like, I don't. I mean, I shudder to think I hope it's not gonna be that bad, but it certainly has the potential. And I feel like you guys probably getting more accurate. You said Orwellian before, LD. It's the way the media functions in the United States right now, and like I said, even the outlets I trust is really alarming. There's
I
this
really
kind of
want to
like
keep
lockstep thing that's.
finding out who is the ultimate owner of the news channels that I watch. Like, there's
That
no
stuff's on the
scrutiny.
internet. You can look it up.
That's true. But there are a couple of major newspapers in the UK that are owned by a Russian oligarch, and you're just thinking, like, did we not like the Fourth Estate? What's going on here?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't. I have no idea what's going to happen. What do you guys think's going to happen? I mean, what's
Jesus Christ.
no, I know. I mean, I know. I know it's ridiculous, but speculate for a little bit. I mean, obviously, you just theorize that there's some fear about the United States being swallowed by a black hole of nationalism and misery. But just
That's
generally, I mean,
unfortunately where I am right now. I hope that I'm wrong.
I do too, but I understand the point of view. Sitting here, USA. Um, but I mean, at the same time, I've been trying to get a sense from people if they have, how are they positioning themselves to maintain, some kind of optimism about the world moving forward.
Because it always does.
Yeah, there's that.
It's true. It's
And
true.
if it doesn't, then that means humans won't be on it anymore to ruin it.
I mean, you could go over, obviously you can go over history and see, huge earth-shaking, tragic events, some that would definitely eclipse this one. But I don't know if that, and maybe my perception's decidedly American. I just don't know. I don't know how much things are going to change. I mean, do we ever?
I mean, there was a flu pandemic 100 years ago, and their medical
Almost exactly
were like bloodletting and what else? It was like bed rest and bloodletting, and something else that was like no medicine at all, just like ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't.
And a quarter of the world's population died, or something like that.
Yeah, like I mean, we're gonna be okay. People lived through that. Like worse things have already happened to other people who came before us who had less better tools than we have. That's not grammatically correct. But we will be okay. It's gonna suck for a while, but we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, in ways that we probably not even sure yet. I love your wallpaper, by the way.
Thanks.
Me too.
I think we were talking before. I mentioned before about compassion, civility, manners. You said manners. That's one thing that I think is one of the biggest shortcomings. Maybe not just in the U.S., but I mean, my experience. It's just like I don't understand why people can be so. I don't understand how people seem to be getting shittier to people.
A little
I
goes
don't
a long way.
either. I thought that like every like major event that happens, like we have at least some bit of reflection, and we remember, oh yeah, we've got to this point because of these events, and it doesn't seem to be very long until people forget all about that and they let the
Right.
anger and the stupidity take over. Like,
Right.
I can't believe the Tea Party basically seized the US media by the summer of 2009. We haven't even been a year out from like the whole, meltdown yet.
Yeah.
And that was the narrative that started the 2010s. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, are you fucking stupid?
Are,
Yes,
are,
obviously.
are
So, right.
arguably some of the roots that had us where we are now.
And the
Yeah.
same thing happened after 9/11. How long did it take for them to want to connect it to things that it had nothing to do with and for people to react on anger?
A week.
So it's even worse now because you have somebody who is a leader who is cheerleading the stupidity and say, yeah, come on out, liberate. So anyway, sorry.
It's okay.
All right.
it,
It's
it
hard
really
not to
is
be angry.
it really is okay. I find the circumstances terrifying as well. And I can't even pay attention to that guy anymore.
No.
I just can't. I see oblique reports on things he said or done or whatever, and I spend every day marveling that anybody can support it. I
There
don't
are
understand
two
it.
headlines that I try to look for Trump: if he's being thrown out of office or if he becomes unwell.
Or
That's it.
killed. Yeah,
All I want to know.
assassinated. Did either one of you, by any chance, right after Trump's election, The Onion, the fake news source, the comedic news source, put
Yeah.
out one of my favorite things. They posted that mental institutions across the U.S. were filling with people claiming to be from the future, sent back to murder Donald Trump. And of course, it's a picture of Bruce Willis in 12 Monkeys. It's like, yep, there you go. I have a hard out at 45 minutes, and so I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys now. But will you guys do this again sometime? Can we like touch base in a couple of weeks and see how things are, if they've changed any?
I'm not doing anything.
Right on. LD, let's you and I have a video call on our own sometime.
Yeah, like after this is nice.
I gotta go. I gotta go cut grass, but I will touch. I know, but I will touch. I will touch base with you sometime soon. And I can't thank you both enough for doing this. I really appreciate it. And be safe. I'm gonna hang up and civil, polite, good manners, all that stuff.